Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, before I go to the body of the motion, please permit me to amend slightly paragraph 1, line 1, from 1.7 million barrels to 2 million barrels. The motion. The Senate notes that although Nigeria produces 2 million barrels of crude per day, its moribund refineries have very little refining capacity and imports roughly 90% of its fuel, negating much of the benefits oil-producing nations accrue from high crude prices. The Senate further notes that according to Petroleum Products Pricing and Regulatory Agency, PPPRA, and the NNPC, between 2006, when the Petroleum Support Fund, PSF, was set up, and 2018, at least 10 trillion naira had been spent on petrol import subsidy. While the Senate in May 2019 criticized the payment of 11 trillion naira to oil marketers as subsidy in the last 6 years, as she had also approved the payment of additional 129 billion naira subsidy claims to 67 petroleum marketers. The Senate is aware that even though the President removed subsidy in May 2016 amid falling crude oil price and an economic recession, more than $160 million was spent on subsidy in early 2017 as the national oil company absorbed costs due to an increase in crude oil price. The Senate is also aware that although Nigeria introduced petroleum subsidies in the 80s as a temporary measure aimed at improving product affordability and domestic consumption, it has, however, become a permanent feature of our economic life and has not only continued unabated, but has skyrocketed over the years as successive administrations have failed to make Nigeria self-sufficient in domestic production of refined petroleum products. Further aware that research by the Council on Foreign Relations Program on Energy Security and Climate Change has shown that in countries where subsidies account for a substantial portion of government budgets or national GDP, they can be physically debilitating and economically damaging. For instance, when subsidies constrain government budgets, they can displace necessary public investment in critical infrastructures, and the confluence of fuel subsidies and state ownership in the energy sector often results in corruption, smuggling, and the emergence of black markets. The Senate notes that the NNPC has 4 major refineries with a combined installed capacity of 445,000 barrels per day, and despite the huge resources expended on turnaround maintenance, none of the 4 refineries currently works up to 50% of their installed capacity, according to figures from the NNPC. The Senate further notes that despite promises and plans by government to bridge shortages in downstream infrastructure and specifically fix Nigeria's moribund refineries and make them work to optimal capacity by 2019, the former oil minister admitted, while speaking last year in Lagos at the 18th edition of the International Biennial Health, Safety and Environmental Conference on the Oil and Gas Industry in Nigeria, that those plans will not materialize until 2020, when Dangote petrochemical refineries 650,000 barrels per day, Nigeria's 4 refineries of 445,000 barrels per day capacity, and 3 modular refineries come on stream. The Senate also notes that in an exclusive interview with the Guardian newspaper in May 2019, the senior technical advisor to the erstwhile Minister of Petroleum on refineries and downstream infrastructure disclosed that about 43 refineries, including large-scale and modular refineries, have been granted licenses to refine petroleum products across the country, that 2 of those modular refineries will be inaugurated soon in the Niger Delta region. Cognizant of the fact that the overriding objective of modular refineries is to overcome the huge capital requirements that impede the establishment and maintenance of large-scale refineries, thereby ensuring self-sufficiency in the production and supply of petrochemical products. The Senate is worried that according to Business Day newspaper reports, Based on data obtained from the Department of Petroleum Resources website, a total of potential 633,000 barrels per day refining capacity has already been lost due to the expiration of licenses of both conventional and modular refinery projects. The Senate is disturbed that despite the dire need to exit petroleum importation, subsidy, and boost local refining capacity to reduce the current 91% exposure to petroleum importation, there is neither a comprehensive plan or roadmap to that end, and for mobilizing technical and financial aid for refinery license holders to ensure refineries under construction become operational, nor proactive information system on the status of existing refineries and licenses, as well as details of subsidy payments. An open data principle would undoubtedly enhance transparency and accountability, and ultimately build trust between citizens and government. The Senate accordingly resolves to mandate an ad hoc committee to invite the Minister or Minister of State for Petroleum and the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian Petrochemical Company, Petroleum Corporation, to brief the committee on the status of existing refineries, including private and modular refineries and licenses. Provide a robust plan and roadmap for exiting importation of refined petroleum products and payment of subsidy, and apprise the committee on a plan for domestic refining with specific timeframes. And 2, report back to the Senate in 8 weeks. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I so move.
Senator Samuel.
My distinguished and respected colleagues, Senator Albert Basi, Akwa Ibom Northeast. Mr. President, I rise to support this motion ably moved by my big sister, Senator Rozoko. Mr. President, issue of subsidy has become a recurrent decimal year in, year out. And I believe, Mr. President, nobody is saying that subsidy is not good. But whatever subsidy instrument that does not achieve the desired objective, which is to make life even more meaningful for the ordinary Nigerians, then such a policy becomes ineffective. Mr. President, I believe very strongly, Mr. President, that the issue of subsidy has been on the front burner of discourse, of our national discourse, because we still stand to be corrected that the ordinary Nigerian, the masses, are not the ones enjoying subsidy. Therefore, it is clear that we are subsidizing inefficiency in our education system, that we are subsidizing corruption, and all have not. Mr. President, as we speak today in this country, there is no Nigerian or marketing company in Nigeria that is importing petroleum products. NNPC imports 100%, being the importer of last resort, no doubt about it. But we believe that whatever system that must be put in place must be transparently done and implemented. You see, currently, Mr. President, we hear about the issue of under recovery on the subjects of NNPC. Well, it is good to under recover, but this same under recovery, as we are made to understand, is still deducted as salt before remittance to federation accounts. Mr. President, I think a time has come. I was hoping that the immediate past Minister of Petroleum Resources will come before us again. We were appointed by the President, because when he was appointed in the last dispensation, he promised this country that in 18 months refineries will work. And this is always the promise of a Minister of Petroleum Resources year in, year out. I believe a time has come, Mr. President, that we must the Mr. President must demonstrate the political will, now that he's in the second term, and at the early stage of the second term administration. This is the time to make away with this subsidy. Mr. President, it might interest you to know, distinguished colleagues, that we have spent over 2.4 trillion in the last 2 years on subsidy. What has been the budget deficit of this country? And I think Nigerians will agree with government if government demonstrates the will, the commitment, and the determination. by putting in place certain palliative before the timely removal of subsidy. It will be well understood. And we also understand how much of subsidies issues have destroyed our Nigerian banks. We also understand how much we believe we can also achieve if we take a concrete step. We must work as a team, whether executive, the parliament, or otherwise. We must all come to terms and have this consensus that the time to do away with this subsidy is now, to save this country and the economy from immediate collapse. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr.
Senator Kabirga. My distinguished colleagues, I'm Kabiru Gaya, representing the people of Kano South from Kano State. Mr. President, I would like to commend Senator Rose for bringing up this motion. But I believe that, Mr. President, her motion is entirely saying, let us boost the domestic production of refined products in our factory, in our country. What she's saying that let's have more refineries so that the fuel price will now come down. He's not talking of removing of subsidy because our prayer clearly states that. So, what, Mr. President, is that if we would like to thank all the major companies, for example, the Dangote Group that are planning to build a big refinery, and the 40 companies that were given license to have modular refineries, of which 2 are ready for commissioning now. So I believe the motion clearly is talking of more production within the country so that we can reduce the price of petroleum in this country. The issue of subsidy, once you remove subsidy, the price of petroleum, if these refineries are not working, it will go over 200 naira per liter. So I'm not ready for improve. I'm against the removal of subsidy, but I'm supporting that these refineries be commissioned as soon as possible and encourage those investors to have more refineries so that we can have more production in the country and the price can go down. Thank you, Mr. President.
My name is Oji Uzokalo Abianot. Mr. President, the issue, I want to thank our colleague and friend, Senator Rose Oko, for the motion she's raising. But the issue of subsidy is a very delicate issue. No matter how much money you remove in subsidy or you put in subsidy, we are not going to succeed unless we are able to refine more products in Nigeria. I think 35% of our petroleum consumption is being consumed by our neighbors. So even if the prices go up or down here, it goes up out of our borders. So I think that all those people stealing and refining our products, petroleum crude oil, should be recognized and given licenses. They could give them up to 1,000 licenses to those boys and give them this oil at the half price to refine and put a inspectorate department of NNPC to inspect so that we have surplus with other refineries. For example, in 1999, when we became governor, I proposed in writing to the then president that we should force ExxonMobil, Chevron, Total, and Ajib to own a refinery, own 80% by government of Nigeria, and they will own 20% and manage it. And after 10 years, the 80% should be offloaded in Nigerian Stock Exchange. But the then government didn't listen to it. So even if Dangote refinery opens tomorrow, we are still going to have shorts of our refined product in Nigeria. So all the people drilling oil now, all the companies, all the small companies drilling oil today, by law, government should mandate all of them to open a modular refinery. Because it's only when we have surplus that we'll be able to stop smuggling. The issue is smuggling. They are not going to, if you increase today these prices of crude oil, it will increase in Cotonou and in Togo and in all the neighboring countries where are the main patronizer of this crude oil. But if our needs in Nigeria is 2 million barrels and we are producing 2.5 million, liters a day. Sorry, not barrels. Then you'll be able to sell surplus to them. So I don't see reason in removing subsidy now. It's going to be a problem because the price will continue going up. The price will continue going up. So I align myself with the senator to invite the Minister of Petroleum and also the Group Managing Director of NNPC to look at this issue realistically on how we are going to move forward. Thank you, Mr.
The issue of subsidy is been with us for a long time, and I hope that we will be able to resolve it, especially in the wake of the coming budgets. And that this National Assembly will have to take a position on really what is the policy direction. Because in a country where livelihood is on a decline, human development indicators is not looking very good in terms of mortality. Somebody just raised a motion on the situation of cholera in Kaduna, and it's like that all over the country. So the issue is, for us as a nation, is cheap petrol a higher priority than improved livelihood of majority of the people? Education, 14 million children out of school. It will take money to bring those children back to school because they need infrastructure, more classrooms, and so on and so forth. Now, in the face of these competing needs, it's good to have cheap petrol, but between that and improved livelihood of our people, I think one should weigh over the other. And I think this is the choice before us as a country. And I believe this National Assembly, through its NABRO office, which is long overdue for implementation, should begin to, rub minds with the executive in terms of policy of this nature. Mr. President, we all know that the funding of capital budgets in this country is also under tremendous pressure. And that is why a lot of the times we need to take external loans in order to fund budgets. If we're able to free money from within our resources in terms of reprioritization, it is possible that external borrowing may not be as much as it is, because subsidy is going from billions into trillions, and it's unending. And I think it will be a great service to this nation if this nice Senate will help to unravel the mystery of spiking and spiraling rise in cost of subsidy to petrol, the better for our nation.
Distinguished colleagues, the issue of fuel subsidy has been with us for a very long time. And if care is not taken, it's going to be with us for another long time to come. Now, the issue of whether there is subsidy or there is no subsidy, whether it is illegal or it's not illegal, we have worked on it even in the Assembly. And the cost recovery that my colleague has said about is denying the Federation account of the money that ought to have been credited there. Why do I say so? Because NNPC now uses first-line charge on the revenue from crude oil to do the cost recovery. So it's denying Federation accounts of that money. Two, sir, there is the dollar cost of importing petroleum products, and there's also the domestic cost of clearing the petroleum products. The dollar cost over the years has not changed much. What has been changing is the domestic cost. And why is the domestic cost changing? It's changing because of the unfair value of the naira vis-a-vis the foreign dollar exchange rate. Three, sir, the export value of our crude oil due to leakages, due to non-monitoring of the export activities of the international oil companies is also paying a very heavy issue on our subsidy. Well, I must comment that in the last 2 years, at least during the end of years, we have stability of petroleum products. But the fundamental issue is the value of the naira vis-a-vis the dollar. Today, for example, if the dollar will exchange for 100 naira, we will not have subsidy at all. So let us not deceive ourselves that, because of this cause or because it is the fundamental issue of the value of the naira. And how do we do that? How do we improve the value of our naira? Not only we are going to get better value from the export of our crude oil. We know, sir, from the studies we have done in the Earth Assembly, Nigeria does not get more than 67% of the value of its export of crude oil. It's very, very clear. So about 40-something is being siphoned out, unaccounted for by the international oil companies. We must sit down and find out the value of our naira vis-a-vis the dollar. Once we have that, nobody will talk about subsidy in this country. Nobody will talk about oil subsidy at all. So we must go back to the fundamental issue of getting the right value of our naira by engaging the international oil companies vis-a-vis the laws that establish proper monitoring of the export of our crude oil. That is pre-shipment inspection of export of crude oil, non-oil, and gas over the years. So, Mr. President, I want to say the fundamental issue is not to remove or add, it is the value of the naira. If we can get the value of our naira fairly, our naira, I don't believe, is overvalued. We are made to believe that it is overvalued. It is not overvalued. For me, our naira is undervalued. I rest my case.
I am Senator Baro Jibrin. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, this motion stands on two legs. One leg is the call for making sure that the government refineries are resuscitated and are working. And those that were given licenses to build modern refineries are able to do that, so that we will be able to refine the petroleum products we need in this country without going out to buy outside of this country. Because when we are able to have this situation as put forward by the motion, we'll be able to conserve our foreign exchange we spend in buying these refined products that are brought into this country. That's good. I support that wholeheartedly. And in that sense, we need to find out, why is it that government is not able to resuscitate these refineries that we have? Why? We get the reason and we fix our problem, or we propel them to resuscitate these refineries. And those that are given licenses, why are they not able to build the refineries? Probably, maybe we need to give them incentives so that we can propel them further to build refineries, because they are good for us. It's in line with our national economic interest. So, wholeheartedly, I support that leg of the motion. But the second level of the motion is calling for devising means on how we can resist the petroleum subsidy regime. But you need to fix this first problem first. When you're able to do that, you bring down the cost of refined product in the country, you create jobs by getting the refineries on board, and so on and so forth. That would be good. But without fixing that problem there, without going to the end of that effort, you begin to talk about how you can move out of, the oil subsidy regime. I think it's not really good. Because we know for a fact that the subsidy we're enjoying was reduced. Got reduced by the military when they were at the helm of affairs of this country. Then later by the present administration, and if by good administration and the present administration, what has changed? Nothing has changed. At that period, we're talking about probably about 40% of Nigerian population are poor. But as we speak, we have 60% of our people are poor. Over 60%, sorry. Over 60%. And these people under 60% I'm talking about, each of them lives under $1 per day. So we are getting poorer. As we change or we remove or reduce the subsidy, we get poorer. So there's no correlation of improvement, showing an improvement between when you had XYZ amount of money paid for subsidy and you got to reduce, and probably you have an improvement in the well-being of Nigerian people. Nothing like that. So, when you begin to hear the suggestion by the British institutions, IMF, World Bank, and so on and so forth, that look, you need to remove subsidy before. There are many ways. There are many ways of getting money to, at least, to finance some part, certain part of our capital needs. You are not talking about the large recurrent budget we have in this country that takes almost all the revenue we earn in this country. You're not talking about that. We should look inwards. How do we reduce the current expenditure in our budgetary system? When you harvest money from there, you'll be able to put it into building an infrastructure, and that's another way of doing that. But now to begin to think of how you will reduce the small incentive, the small subsidy, the small palliative, the small assistance given to the poor, because by the time you reduce this subsidy, indirectly you are saying the cost of transportation should increase, the little things that are produced in this country, the prices should increase, and so on and so forth. So you are trying to make these people more poorer, the impoverished people. Try to make them more poorer. I don't buy that idea. I don't buy that. So we should look inwards. Yes, it's good to look at the subsidies. Yes, we should look at that. But let's fix our refineries. Let's bring down the cost of refining products in this country lower than what it is now. Let's stop the importation of refined products. By the time we do that, the prices will get lower and Nigerians will have the best deal possible. But without that, going to talk about removal of subsidy, I think is not good for the poorest of the poor in this country. We'll be adding more poverty on our people, and we cannot afford that. So, Mr. President, let's take the first aspect of the motion while doing away with the second aspect of the motion. Mr. President, so submit.
Senator George Thompson Sekibo.
We produce 2 million barrels per day. We export 90% of it. The other problem is we have 4 refineries. They are producing under 50%. The third problem is with 6 years or so, we spend 11 trillions on subsidy. Now, if you look at 11 trillion on subsidy in 6 years, maybe 1.8 1.7 trillion per year. Then we ask a fundamental question. What is the budget of this country every year? So if you see that what is being spent for subsidy is so huge, but can we exit subsidy now? That's a question. It will be difficult to exit subsidy until the other 2 questions are answered, which are what my colleague just there has also elicited. First, we must make our refineries work. The 4 refineries must work at least maybe 85-90%. If that is done, then we have local content. But if that is not done, and we keep on exporting from outside, we are in problem. Why can't our refineries work? This is issue that have been canvassed and be discussed virtually on daily basis. Turnaround maintenance program, TAM, has been on virtually every year. Is it because they are very aged? Is it because they are not good? If the refineries are working, we have the raw material, we have the crude, we inject into them and we get more product. And then the cost will be reduced. If they are not working, we'll be speaking grammar here. There is nothing else we can do. We have to again go on subsidy. So we must make them to work. The second leg is, Mr. President of the Senate. Well, we thank God that government has granted about 43 licenses to both conventional and modular refineries. We had 2 of them are going to be commissioned. Now 41 are still not doing anything about them. Some of them, the licenses have expired. What can we do about this one? Are there no regulation or clauses if you are not able to build up to this particular, apart from withdrawing the licenses? If we can encourage these modular refineries to work, if we can encourage them to work, why spend 1.7 trillion perhaps in a year to keep on encouraging subsidy? Why not spend maybe 1 trillion in a year to give as a repayable grant to either the modular refineries or conventional refinery owners as a help, as a grant, so that when they start to function, we can withdraw our monies from that one. I support the motion. I stand by the prayers, but I think there are more fundamental things, because it is becoming a rhetoric that will come back here every day or every year talking about the same issue. First thing first, our refineries must work, and we must look for a way to support those we are already giving licenses, so that they will be able to, with what they have, establish refineries in our local area. Thank you, Mr. President of the Senate.
Senator Ifeanyi.
My name is Senator Ifeanyi, Anambra South. Mr. President, I want to thank our distinguished Senator Rose Oko for this straightforward motion on existing petroleum subsidy, ensuring self-sufficiency in domestic refining of petroleum products. Straightforward. Mr. President, this issue is a front burner to many Nigerians, front burner issue to many Nigerians, because many people are not happy that a country like Nigeria will continue to export our crude oil in order to bring refined petroleum products from even Côte d'Ivoire, nearby Côte d'Ivoire. Mr. President, it needs a practical approach, not a rhetoric approach, because we say so many things, but we don't put them into practicality. The policy of government must also be looked into. You don't say 43 licenses were given for modular refinery, but when there is a policy retraction of government, no government cannot be able to support or compensate those who have invested in line with their policy. In about 2011, the downshow was deregulated by the past president. But just because of few demonstrations in Ojota, Lagos, and some little demonstration, it was reversed. All those that invested in line with that policy, because there was awareness that was created by the then Minister of Finance, Okonjo Iweala, then Governor of Central Bank, M.S. Sanusi. All those that invested in line with their proposal that there will be deregulation in the industry, today they are carrying their heads low before the public, because some are attacked, they are owing this, they are owing that. Nobody is looking into their investment. So what we are trying to discuss here is what everybody has been saying, telling Nigeria. IMF has advised Nigeria, let us remove subsidy. Let us deregulate the downstream sector of Nigerian economy. The US ambassador has also said it. Everybody in Nigeria, all the downstream sector, all the sector managers have also said it. I'm sorry I did not see the prayer that we should add the sector movers, people like Moman, major oil marketers, people like DAPMA, people and the petroleum tank farm owners, and people like independent marketers. I didn't see them in the prayer, so I would also like to raise my own prayer, but I want to go more into solutions, sir. I think if Nigeria can bring in just $1 billion guarantee from our reserve, we can erect 5 modular refineries in 5 riverine areas of Nigeria. Experience in the industry has shown that ship-to-ship transfer of crude oil is the best mode to feed our refineries because of our low channels. Many people are talking about refineries working. By the time you put on a refinery, the next day they will break the pipelines. But in the industry, we've not lost money. Even Dangote refinery model is ship to refinery model. So if we are running on ship to refinery model, that is conveying crude oil through the ships to the refineries, why can't we set up modular refineries where we can pick up our crude oil from escargots and send to our local refineries, and by so doing, we will start generating 250 billion naira every month for Nigerian states. Mr. President, I would like this line assembly to give $1 trillion naira a month to Nigerians. And if we can amend 2 bills on petroleum sector, 1, deep offshore bill, and 2, the regulation of downstream, we can generate 1 trillion to Nigerians every month. And that is huge a lot of money to help us to eradicate poverty in Nigeria. We can also emulate the Ghanaian system where they rate one industry per district. This can help Nigeria. So my prayer is that, I'm not saying my prayer, my suggestion to Mr. President is that we should look into efficiency in eradicating subsidy in the...
Can you round up, please?
By eliminating subsidy. And I'll have a prayer, please. Thank you, Mr. President. I have a prayer.
No, let...
We are lucky that oil, petrol is about $66 thereabout because of some of the instability that is happening in the Persian Gulf. But if tomorrow there is a major shock and oil price drops to about $40 per barrel, we'll be in big trouble. To fund our budget deficit, to be able to pay some of our other intervention funds, and also to always take care of some of the money that we are paying in terms of all our security challenges. Mr. President, I strongly support this motion. I think we need to take a look at this subsidy issue, and the government needs to give us a clear policy, an articulate policy in what we are going to do to mitigate against the risk, and also the challenges that are going to come about in removing this subsidy. So I strongly support it, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Senator Alondumi.
Thank you, Mr. President. And if they are efficient enough, it will go a long way to increasing the supply. And we cannot remove the rule, simple law of economics, demand and supply. Once there is sufficient supply, the price will go down. We have private individuals venturing into refinery, and it is the responsibility of the National Assembly to do whatever it can do to facilitate and support these private individuals to ensure that our refineries are working. And it is the responsibility, because we have the constitutional right to oversight the department in charge of petroleum and the ministry and NNPC, to find out why, up to now, our refineries are not working. And if they work optimally, what will be the effect on the importation that causes the need for subsidy. And now, subsidies, I understand, it's not paid to individuals, but NNPC takes it, and there too they transfer the corruption and lack of transparency and accountability to the NNPC. It is still the responsibility of this National Assembly to find a way of checkmating this and ensuring that our refineries are working, and those licenses that were given and are not working, to find out why, and if there is something that needs to be done. The solution to this issue of subsidy and all this is supply. Even if we remove the subsidy and the supply is not there, the price will go up from where we left. That is the basic rule. So, distinguished colleagues, let us face this issue. Well, find out from the committee, the ad hoc committee should find out why our refineries are not working and what do they need to do in order to make them work. And then, why are the individuals, private individuals, like Dangote have started and their modular refineries, I understand there are two. What is causing the delay? And if there need be, the government can support them to make sure that these refineries are working. But please, I beg you, distinguished colleagues, for me, I've said it clearly on the TV. I beg, people record me well. I'm not supporting removals of subsidy. But anything that will be done to bring the price down, I'm in support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues, for the various interventions. I know many senators would have loved to contribute. But let me say that the focus of this motion is not on the removal of subsidy. Actually, is on refining, the improvement in the refining capacity of Nigeria. And therefore, our focus will remain on the need to ensure that those 43 licenses granted are properly activated and utilized. It should be our challenge on how we can ensure that people like Dangote and others are motivated, are incentivized, are supported to establish functioning refineries. And also the 4 refineries of the federal government, we should find out how we can ensure that they function. I think this Senate should be at the vanguard of pushing for improving the capacity, the refining capacity of our refineries, as well as establishing the modular refineries. The issue of subsidy is one issue that can go away easily and naturally if our refineries are working. So for now, I think our task will be that we remain focused, and when the PIB will come, and it will come, this is one issue that the PIB should actually try to resolve, because we should have a PIB that will encourage private sector participation fully, with of course the benefits also coming to our country. Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.